Donald Trump i Davos, UK cyangwa United Kingdom ndetse na NATO nyinshi nk'izo Amerika yatakaje mu rugamba muri Afghanistan. Yavuze ati they say they sent troops, they did say a little back, a little off the front line. Yavuze ati ibyo akaba ari bimwe mu byavuye mu nama y'i Davos ejo.
Be positively affected by the beauty of the continent, the gifts, everything that is good. And we are moving from a very bad history of colonial domination, but we are exploding every day.
From Zelensky. Yesterday, you heard Steve Witkoff, the president's foreign envoy, kind of allude to the fact that there is one issue that remains despite these months and months of attempts to bring a peace deal over the finish line, and that is going to be a point of discussion as they sit down in Abu Dhabi today. But I do think it's notable that this is a trilateral format meeting. It's going to be the U.S., the Ukrainians, and the Russians now sitting down at last to discuss this amongst themselves. It had been a format that President Trump himself had suggested would be useful after meeting Vladimir Putin in Alaska last summer, but never essentially came to fruition. And so just the format of this new format, I think, could be a sign that things are continuing to progress, however incrementally. And I think the effect that that will have is it will make any future negotiations just between the U.S. or just between Russia and the U.S., it will raise the question of why the trilateral format doesn't proceed. And so getting this into place, I think, will be important going ahead. Now, the expectations are somewhat limited. You know, no one expects them to emerge from this meeting having figured out how to carve up the eastern Donbass region is the ultimate task here. Even President Trump somewhat pessimistic that this would all end very quickly. Listen to what he said last night on Air Force One.
There were times when Putin didn't want to make a deal, times when Zelensky didn't want to make a deal, and it was like opposite times. Now I think they both want to make a deal. We'll find out.
Two other issues that I think the U.S. wants to ensure that both Russia and Ukraine can accept. One is this question of security guarantees that had been a point of quite intensive discussion between the Ukrainians and the Americans over the last several weeks about what exactly that would include. I they need to ensure that Moscow can accept those security guarantees as any part of peace deal. The other aspect is the post-war sort of financial situation for Ukraine, and it will certainly cost billions and billions of dollars to help rebuild that country. That's something that Steve Witkoff has said that he will be focused intently on, as well as Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, who is part of the negotiating team here. Now, yesterday, when Zelensky was emerging from his meeting with President Trump at Davos, he was relatively upbeat, which I think is notable. That's not always been the case after these meetings. He said that they discussed potential new air defense systems. That's something that is always sort of on Ukraine's. I think that's also a sign that even Zelensky himself, as he's asking for these new defenses, is aware that this war may not be ending anytime soon.
We have a big flotilla going, and we'll see what happens. It's a big force. We have a big force going toward Iran. I'd rather not see anything happen, but we're watching them very closely.
ibyo perezida Donald Trump akaba yaravuze ati ibintu biri kuba muri Iran turi kubirebera hafi, ati ari nabwo yababwiye abanya-Iran ati mugume mwigaragambye mukureho ubutegetsi, tuje kubatabara, ariko nyuma akaza kwisubiraho.
Held a signing ceremony on Thursday. So far, no major European countries have joined this board of peace, many citing concerns about the inclusion of Vladimir Putin. Meantime, Trump...
Kandi inama cyangwa komite Donald Trump yashyizeho yo gushaka amahoro muri Gaza, ati nta gihugu gikomeye cyo mu Burayi kigeze gishyirwamo nk'ako kanama. Ayo akaba ari amakuru agezweho hirya no hino. There is also a problem in US about ICE, who has stopped a 5-year-old boy. He was detained in the court from Columbia Heights Public School on this Tuesday in Minnesota. This case raised many.
His mom. There was another adult who lived in the home that was there saying, "I will take the child. I will take the child." Somebody else was yelling. They saw that I was there and said, "School is here. They can take the child. You don't have to take." And they were to be able to safely hand that child off to adults. And mom was there. She saw out the window, and dad was yelling, "Or don't open the door."
Aho akaba ari muri leta in Columbia School, public school. J.D. Vance commenting about police detaining a 5-year-old boy. His father in Texas in Columbia Heights Public School. The mother inside home when the two were taken from their mother saw his husband and his child of 5 years old detained by the of ICE. Ari kuvuga ati mama w'umwana yari ari mu nzu abona abapolisi ba ICE bafashe umwana we w'imyaka 5 ahagaze hanze mu bukonje. J.D. Vance akaba ejo yaragiye kuvugana n'inzego z'umutekano, avuga no ku iki kibazo cy'uyu mwana watawe muri yombi inzego z'umutekano za ICE.
Europeans and the rest of the administration
Trump on NATO.
in Davos over the course of this week, to the sort of astonishment many of the politicians there, but that felt like it was being ameliorated somewhat because of this apparent framework deal over the issue of Greenland. But certainly, as far as many NATO countries and especially the UK are concerned this morning, this is not going to help the relationship.
Bakaba bavuga ati Trump akaba yaravuze ibi ngibi ati nta kintu biza gufasha ku mubano wa Amerika ndetse na NATO.
As now we're expecting to following
Many are talking about
their memories and
about
for the families
benshi bari kuvuga
to let them know that they will always be remembered.
Kuvuga ku byo Trump yavuze ku basirikare ba NATO.
Diminished all that and the memories, and a lot of veterans and the families are feeling very hurt by his words.
Trump wavuze ko abasirikare ba NATO muri Afghanistan nta kintu bigeze bakorayo ziri mu ngabo, bakaba bari kubivugaho ndetse n'abayobozi bo mu bihugu by'Uburayi.
Families know that. So I painted each over the course of 4 years, and I sent the portraits to their respected families, and it was very well received. But the most feedback I got was the families were overjoyed because someone was remembering their loved one who had fallen in Afghanistan.
Uyu mutangabuhamya cyangwa uyu mugabo wasezereye ku ngabo aravuga ati hari abasirikare benshi b'Ubwongereza baguye muri Afghanistan kandi ababyeyi babo bakaba bababajwe n'ibintu Trump yavugiye ejo i Davos, avuga ko Amerika ariyo yatakajemo abasirikare benshi.
A lot of veterans are feeling hurt by his words. Whether his words are out of context, I do not know, but at the end of the day, they were wrong words, and he should at least apologise, especially to the families of the fallen. The families, they must be really hurt by his words, and it's sad that the words that he spoke were very, very sad.
wasezereye mu ngabo z'Ubwongereza cyangwa waritayarinze, akaba avuga ati ibintu Trump avuga kenshi nta makuru aba abifiteho. Ati icyo yagakoze ni ugusaba imbabazi imiryango y'abasirikare, imiryango ifite ababo baguye kuri ruriya rugamba rwo muri Afghanistan, kubera ko Trump yavuze ko nta kintu bakozeyo, ahubwo bagiyeyo bagahita bavayo, Amerika ariyo yatakarijemo ingabo ndetse n'abantu bayo benshi. Iyo akaba ari intambara muri Afghanistan Donald Trump yavuzeho, avuga kuri NATO ndetse n'ingabo z'Ubwongereza.
into plan ahead.
Be too late.
In the Gloucester area, and they include, as you say, a man called Philip Young, a former councillor in that area. He was the man who faced most of the charges today, 56 counts in all, and he pleaded guilty to most of them. He pleaded guilty to multiple counts of rape, multiple counts of voyeurism, and multiple counts of administering a substance with the intention of incapacitating somebody. And all the victims in his case were his former wife, Joanne Young, who was in court today to listen to the proceedings. Mr. Young denied several other counts that were put to him, including possession of indecent images of children. The four other men had charges put to them as well. They all denied the charges that were put to them, also in connection with alleged assaults, alleged rapes against Joanne Young. The court was told that the trial will take place in this case in October, beginning on the 5th of October. There are various other administrative meetings to be held before then, but the evidence to be put in place for witness statement.
Hano uwo mugabo yemeye n'ibindi byaha yarakurikiranyweho kirimo icyo kuba yarahaga ibiyobyabwenge umugore we wahoze ari umugore we akamufata ku ngufu, ndetse n'ibindi byaha byo gufata abana ku ngufu, kuba yarafatanywe amashusho y'abana batoya batujuje imyaka, akaba yemeye icyaha, akaba ari mu rukiko ngereza. Bimwe mu bintu tuvugiye mu nama y'i Davos mu gihugu cy'Ubusuwisi, bari barimo abayobozi b'Uburayi ndetse na Donald Trump cyangwa Amerika, birimo ibyo kuvuga ati abasirikare ba NATO ndetse n'ab'Ubwongereza nta kintu bigeze bakora mu ntambara ya Afghanistan, ati Amerika niyo yari ifiteyo akamaro kandi yagushijeyo yahombye cyane kuko abasirikare bo benshi baguye. Uyu twari turi kumva rero ni minisitiri w'intebe w'Ubwongereza avuga ati Donald Trump kuvuga ibintu nka biriya akwiye gusaba imbabazi, agasaba imbabazi imiryango y'abantu ababo baguye muri ya ntambara, kubera ko Ubwongereza twarwanye iruhande rw'Abanyamerika, turwana kubera imyumvire yacu, tuba abafatanyabikorwa. Rero Donald Trump yagakwiye gusaba imbabazi. This is news around the world right now. Ukraine, Russia and US talks begin in Abu Dhabi. Uburusiya ndetse na Amerika ibiganiro byabo bikaba biri butangire muri Abu Dhabi. Ariko ibikubiye byinshi muri ibi biganiro akaba ari Ukraine igomba kureka, harimo Luhansk, Donetsk nk'uko mbibona. President Zelensky said, I hope these talks are heading to end this war. Ukraine Prime Minister, let's listen what she is saying.
For peace is measured in practical steps. and a ceasefire would demonstrate Putin's, genuine willingness really to make peace. Unfortunately, that for so many years we haven't seen such desire, at least to ceasefire, and prolonging negotiations serves to, I think, inflict maximum damage on Ukraine, and Putin's objective in Ukraine's capitulation, I think have not been changed. That is why everything else is Sumy in Dnipro and Zaporizhia. It's really a very catastrophic situation in with the energy sector, because it is Russia's genocide of Ukrainians. We had already this genocide from Russians at the beginning of 20th century, so it's again used really as a weapon of absolutely mass destructions. And it's both sad and bizarre that while committing such crimes, Putin was and is still invited, to all the kind of peace councils and events. For us, it's really very painful injustice. But despite this, Ukraine fighting really for its existence. I'm sitting, by the way, Kasa, to show I think that 25 minutes ago the electricity was turned on, but before the heating, so this, I don't know how to say, oven saved us be freezed, because really in many regions, it's minus 20, minus 25 was. Now, yes, it's becoming more warm, but it's also what damages our houses, and it's also really about retired people. Minutes ago, it's a new signals and messages that today's night again will be heavy strikes from Russia Federation. So there are signals from our services. That is why still the armed forces are holding the line, and really volunteers are helping, and partners, of course, providing support, and we really appreciate especially also UK. And by the way, the last topic about Afghanistan, which you have mentioned, I think the challenges are the same. How to that we have to find the ways to save unity in NATO countries, also in Europe, and to be together with Ukraine, because it's about values and principles, and it's really about truth, and it's really about justice. And that is why, of course, we can talk about Afghanistan, about the last message, talk about Greenland, and of course...
hano uyu Ukraine muri Kiev aravuga ati biratangaje kubona n'ubu ngubu tuvuga ati hariho agahenge Perezida Vladimir Putin misile ze ziguma zirasa ibikorwa by'amashanyarazi agira ngo yicishe abaturage ba Kiev ubukonje. Ati n'ubu ngubu tuvuganye nuko umuriro uje ubu ngubu wari wabuze, naho ubundi twakabaye twishwe n'ubukonje. Ati rero biragaje kubona Vladimir Putin atumirwa mu nama ngo zo gushaka amahoro, ngo ati ni ibintu bitari byiza. Ati n'ubu ngubu inzego z'umutekano cyangwa ziperereza zacu ziri kutubwira ko mw'iri joro misile z'Abarusiya ziri bwongere zikarasa. Ati rero ntago ibintu bimeze neza, ahubwo twavuga ko iyi ari jenoside Uburusiya na Vladimir Putin bari gukorera abanya-Ukraine. Uwo akaba ari minisitiri w'intebe wa Ukraine avugira i Kiev, mu murwa mukuru wa Ukraine. Si ibyo avuzeho gusa, kuko avuze no ku byo Donald Trump yavuze avuga ku ngabo za NATO ndetse n'iz'Ubwongereza. Aravuga ati ni amakuru amwe ibintu biri kwisubiramo, yaba ibya Greenland, yaba ibyo yavuze ku ngabo z'Abongereza ati ni ibintu bimwe bigenda byisubiramo. Those were some update news around the world where Ukraine, Russia and America are holding a meeting in Abu Dhabi to look on how to stop the war in Ukraine. But news coming from there are that it's all about talking about losing land on the side of Ukraine. Ukraine must accept to lose some of their land so that the war may stop. Those are some news that are on now around the world. Continuing to look in protest in Iran, doctors are testifying that the numbers given in the news are not correct. That in Iran, they have died many people as some of the protesters was shot in the face, so that it's not easy to identify them. So the exact number of people who died during the protest may be much more as the number given on the news. And people in Iran are in blackout. Abantu bapfuye mu gihe cy'imyigaragambyo ari benshi cyane kurusha abagiye bavugwa ku makuru, kubera ko bamwe mu bigaragambyaga bagiye baraswa mu kivunge, hari abarashwe mu maso, bityo rero guhita babasha kumenya abari bo kugira ngo babashyire mu mubare. Still looking around the world on news on climate change is caused in Italy, Sardinia. Floods emerged due to climate change. Heavy rains caused damage. Causing the destruction of the roads. People are using pumps to remove water in their homes and their house, and also in France, floods due to heavy rains has emerged. In DRC Congo, M23 and Patrick Mouyaya, porte-parole.
Où il n'y a plus de voix, exporter le modèle rwandais qui est un modèle d'étouffement de toute forme de liberté. Le président rwandais n'est pas du tout confortable dans les processus de paix, à les niveaux que nous avons atteints. Je rappelle qu'à Luanda, au 15 décembre, il n'est pas venu, nous étions en phase d'atterrissage. Il n'est pas venu parce qu'il avait un plan, le plan de l'intensification du conflit.
DRC Speaker Patrick Mouyaya talking about the situation in AFC M23.
Nous nous battons parce que des décennies durant, nous n'avons pas réussi à faire de la République démocratique du Congo ce qu'elle devrait être.
Colonel Nangaa saying that their fight is known because in many years they have not achieved their goal of making DRC Congo a great nation. Climate change also in Africa. There is inundation in South African forest. Prime Minister.
Il dépasserait un demi-milliard d'euros. Il s'agit toutefois d'estimations. Dans certaines zones, le niveau des eaux n'a pas suffisamment baissé pour permettre à Sandparks de procéder à une évaluation correcte.
Inundations also in South Africa due to climate change. William Akamp, Minister of South Africa Forest.
Ils vont tous atteindre le Mozambique. Nous ne cherchons donc pas à atténuer, à nous adapter aux impacts en Afrique du Sud, mais aussi à venir en aide à nos pays voisins, en particulier ceux de la région SADC.
Frauds. War in Sudan, South Sudan.
Et nous avons donc
News around the world. In South Sudan, continue. Reporters think that 2 men are causing the catastrophe in South Sudan. 2 men who are fighting for power. 2 in Sudan. News around the world. Trump's comment on NATO troops upper rings. Donald Trump should apologize.
Isn't it? And you don't, I didn't sign up to serve Donald Trump by any means, you know. I signed up to serve the country and my regiment and my comrades in arms, and I was happy and honoured to serve with great people from America throughout that career as well. So, and if you know, with my kind of analyst academic head on, you start talking about those numbers that you have up on your website. About population, you know, it's not about the size of population, it's about the size of the military, first of all, which is much smaller in some of these countries, and then it's about the size of that military that deployed to the front lines. So, for example, my platoon, my company, we took 10% casualties. You know, it was in fact 25% casualties. It's like the Normandy breakouts. The US Marine Corps who served with us took terrible casualties. That wasn't the worst. The guys who came up after us in 3 rifles, way worse. So, same with the Marines. You know, so we shared that risk together. So that to be presidential is probably, you know, a bit of in this regard. You know, presidential is about shared embodying and an understanding. If you look at the shared sacrifices of all our countries, whether they're big or small, and whether and basically, as I said, understanding that brotherhood, which is gathered, and the interoperational experience which is gathered on together. The positive of alliances and what's held us together is really bounded in the shared history and the shared sacrifice. And when you forget that, or you don't honour it, I think the world is a worse place.
So on that.
Umutangabuhamya we nawe wagiye ku rugamba aravuga ati ku rugamba twahuriragayo n'abantu benshi, duhura n'abamarine marines ubwo ni bamwe mu basirikare, ni rumwe mu rwego rw'abasirikare bo muri Leta Zunze Ubumwe za Amerika. Ati twarwananye nabo muri Afghanistan, ati bamwe ubu ngo baba bafite n'imyanya ikomeye mu ngabo cyangwa mu gihugu cya Amerika. Ati ibintu Donald Trump yavuze ntago ari ibintu by'umuperezida, ahubwo yagakwiye kumva ko hari twitanze, kandi hari yaba ku ruhande rwa NATO ndetse n'igihugu cyacu cy'Ubwongereza hari hagiye hatakara abantu, ndetse no muri Marines cyangwa
with that. I would still say the US needs a lot of the bases. This is not where they can just kind of do what they want. It needs a lot of the bases. It needs a sensor in the listening stations. Look at the seizure of the Russian tanker off Scotland just last week, and the way that went through different bases in the UK. So there'd be much more cost and risk involved if the US was to decide it didn't want to be a part of NATO anymore, and the corollary would then be the people leaving.
Uyu mugabo akomeza avuga ati